brief update on Cohnirri Space. About 10 hours after that, after we closed after I did the making of for book 3, movie 3. We're gonna do a 4th movie, but only a 4th one, and we're gonna give it closure, like the end of the story says. I'm going to loosely follow the script for the 4th movie, for the end of book 1. Basically, we're just gonna end book 1. Using some ideas that come later on in order to save some of the crew. So we're going to have like the several of the characters interact in a way. We have that guy that's dressed like Cisco, Maze. Who will turn out to be a Cillian, because why else would he be dressed like Cisco? But we don't need the Cillian ending of the other story where the Starfleet people break the 4th wall and say we're going to rescue you, because that's kind of a cop-out. It makes more sense for the characters within the story to rescue them, so that makes more sense. We have the bad guy. We have the bad guy heading for Earth. We have the good guys heading for Earth as well. But maybe when they get there, kind of what I was mulling over earlier in the morning was that probably what happens is it's like the story. It does follow the end of the book, but instead of including the Oroge agent ladies and they're yelling at Malapura, it's the Queen, which makes more sense. So that makes a hell of a lot more sense. Why would the pit boss lady be yelling at the guy who's above rank? The Queen's going to show up because she was in the first 2 books, so why wouldn't she show up? And that is what happens in the story. So we have, the space fleet is just in tatters as it starts out. We have Maze, and we have Maze, and who was Harold before, but we changed the name because it's ripping off. We didn't know it was ripping off somebody, so we changed it. And Hendrix and the other commanders and stuff, and they're left at Earth, and then we have. Here's our adversaries. We have the what's left of the New York and what's left of the Nevada still intact, but out there. We have they wouldn't pose a threat to him. He wouldn't. The bad guy wouldn't attack them. It just doesn't make sense. He would attack the Queen's ship, of course, but would he be dumb enough to do that? Maybe he would. Also, the Majestic that was mentioned earlier, that should show up. Just because we mentioned it, and we don't want to have the Majestic show up under someone else that's a surprise. We can also have the Majestic is basically this other. It's described as an asteroid ship, but maybe it's just called that because it picks up asteroids. Yeah, it's not actually asteroidal. That'd be weird. No, not doing that. We're not ripping off Ben Boba. And Greg Bear as well. We're not ripping off either of them. That's okay. You want closure with the story, so we need a 4th act because this was a cliffhanger, and so the good guy side. Okay, we have Everett, who would be in command of the Space Forces, basically, but they'd want to keep him safe, so he's on the Endeavor or he's on the Discovery. You can send Beth in the Discovery to Mars, maybe pick up the Mars stuff, see the ruins, see the thing, whatever. We can do a little bit of that. I don't want to introduce anybody new because that's weird. I don't necessarily want to have it would be mainly a space show except for that. We want to rescue the Cervantes brothers from the planet. That would be similar to in book 2, but this would be years before story book 2. We're not going to do book 2. Those stories are not worthy of doing the other ones as Cohnirri Space, so don't worry about it. All that talk from that other behind the scenes thing, we're not doing book 2. Because those ideas were just too weird, and we're not doing that. Just book 1 and it's done. But book 1 had 4 movies in it, and they can't have a space war, space route, Deep Space Nine type battle with the Dark Ride and then the Togmas. It's sort of like, I was trying to compare them. It was sort of like but they're not comparable. I was trying to compare them into an incorrect comparison. A better comparison to the Autonomous thing is they do the Dominion War, and we did the Dominion War with Autonomous, and they did the Dominion War over there, DO69. We don't need to do that. Yeah, it's not about space wars. It's not Star Wars. It's not space epic war, space battle. It's about the human condition, the human adventure. They go on space missions, and there's an adventure. It's grounded in what it does. It's a simpler story that way. You just have the characters going from place to place or going from ship to ship, doing things, and then it's done. And you can have the snappy ending with the bad guys realizing they can't keep Earth because humans are really vicious, beating them up. That needs to be in there. Yeah. But yeah, in order to give Nigel Pura a little bit of a challenge, that guy that we left behind in book 2, he shows up too. The Dargrai show up as well early, and we have the Harbinger in the story as well. As we built the model, we have a model. Yes, we have the Hadrian and the Harbinger models and the other ones, and why not use them? So we have that. So we have the yeah. So that's what I'm going to do. So the other bad guy in the scene, instead of it being one of his lackeys and Krask, which makes no sense that it'd be Krask talking back to him, it's the Dargrai commander guy. And the Dargrai guy is just simply going like, we came here to invade Earth too. We came here before you guys. We lay claim to it. And then, yeah, that would explain what the Alan Slayton project was taken out, apparently by him. And he's like, I blew up the ship. The Kaleen and the other ship can then either sacrifice themselves at the end or survive. It's up in the air. What do you want to do with that? You probably don't want to kill him off. I mean, he's been there the whole time. So the part of book 2 where I was like, let's kill off the Kaleen and have this random other Dargrai who isn't the Lord guy, have these other Dargrai kill him. It's like, what was I doing? I don't know what I was doing. That's not interesting. It'd be like if instead of Weyoun fighting the Cisco, Weyoun makes somebody lackey do it. What? And then there's this other guy that shows up called Rikasny in book 2, and he just replaces the character. He's Sandperkak, but he's called Rikasny instead. It was like, what? It would be like, what? It'd be like, okay, we killed Admiral Ross, but here's another admiral. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Dutch has sacrificed himself. You don't really need to do that. He could be killed off screen, or he shows up with. I don't think we even introduced him, so he killed off screen. We have the other stuff. We said, oh, he's crazy. There's no evil admiral from the Earth forces in it. That's silly. And there's no Autonomous in it. You find out they're gone, and it's really easy to do that. When the Queen Lady shows up to yell at the Dotal for trying to seize the Earth, she says, "I was just back from battle went to the Autonomous planet, and we went there and we defeated them, and they're all gone. Ha! We defeated our masters. Ah!" She goes on like for a minute how glorious the battle. Defeated our masters. It was glorious. We defeated them in battle and murdered them all. Only to have the bad guy, which would be kind of funny. The Kirk bad guy go, "You're bluffing, or you're lying. I suspect there was no one there when you got there. They were all dead." "Yes, it is. You know how I know? Because I was there, and they were all dead, all the way to the Red Angel system. They're all gone, completely wiped out. It's not a threat anymore." There you go. That's all you need. "And here I thought you had the evil MacGuffin device. We're going to use it to destroy the Earth forces." "No, that would be stupid. I don't have one of those. It's not like we have magic weapon boxes that we can use to control the space battle. There's no space battle here. Earth is completely conquered." And then she says, "Well, that was a challenge. I will fight you." So they go at it. The Dargrai are fighting, the Teletomach are fighting the Autonomous, and Cassins and crew and our people are left on the backside going, "Oh crap, we better get out of here. We're gonna get slaughtered." And they all come back and regroup, and everybody gets rescued, and they watch the battle happen. basically. There you go. There's and it's loosely the script. It loosely is the story. You're just you're changing the evil admiral to one of the aliens. You're making it the evil Harlingen, is his name, Duke Lord Harlingen, who hasn't become commander of anything. In fact, he could have a line in there where he goes, but not too humorously, where he goes, well, I would have been commander of the planet. I do have a smooth and sexy voice. However, they didn't re-elect me, so I'm kind of fucked. Exactly. There you go. They didn't re-elect him in this universe. They didn't want him. And that way you can do other stories later on if you want to in this universe. You can cherry pick the best ones and do other stories in the future. But this will be book 4, the final book, and it will loosely follow that script. Well, it'll follow the bones of the script, but it'll have different people representing the main people in it. So the remaining 90 pages, 90 minutes, it will be awesome. Yes, it is a good ending. It does end. It comes to a conclusion. You have Cassins and crew do get saved, and they watch the action. But what in the original story, it was more like they watched the action from afar, and they had like this other. And we don't want to do that. That's boring. Let's have them in the action, but not necessarily in the fighting. So yeah, they're scientists and they're rescue teams. They should be rescuing people from the planet. And then of course the bad guys discover, Earth is too much. We've tried to land on the planet, and the humans are slaughtering our forces as they land, or they're blown out of orbit by RPGs and stuff. Yeah, you're not gonna take the Earth. This isn't Independence Day. Yeah, so there you go. This could be considered the making of book 4. I printed it. This is Calicaster, and this is the script for movie 4. All I had to do was polish it and add some notes. Well, I changed quite a lot of it, actually. I deleted most of the space battle stuff that you couldn't film, lined it up, and said, okay, whenever there is sort of ad-libbing, there's a lot of ad-libbing in this, because it's similar to the Rumbly story, in that there's ad-libbing, and you're going to just put it out and just do the dialogue like what's written and just keep going. It's about 71 pages. And it does end with a sort of Starfleet-y appearance thing that I rewrote so that it fits the story better. Because, Maze is sort of out of time because he's a traveler. That they reveal at the end. He and DeVries are travelers, and they've been observing them. And one of the main characters goes out and says, like, why didn't you come earlier if you could have fought the bad guys? And he's all like, no, I couldn't have done that because we had to deal with the Totemus, who were Time Lords who had been screwing with the universe, and we dealt with them, so don't worry about it. Yeah, something to that effect. The Queen shows up, but something has happened to the Queen's power, and she shows up, and there's a lot of and yeah, so that's fun. And one of the Cassins people of the Majestic shows up. There's a fight. There's kind of a take over the ship thing. I threw in, but I added to it instead of one of the other bad guys doing all the action. It's just Harlingen, who helps Tornak and Falvala and Antonio. They've also I threw in the local laws in there, and these are just in the scenes where I did summary scenes, so there are no dialogue. You're gonna put dialogue in. I put summary scenes of things that happen. The Cervantes brothers get together with Harlingen, who's been at the planet already, and they've got the local laws. He stole it, and he's on the planet. So it's not like he has a whole fleet anymore. He just has the one ship, the Harbinger. So he's not a threat to the other bad guy. He's just there, and he's not in power, so he's not later going to blow up his planet like in that other story, which we're not going to do. So he's just there on his own, like as a guy. 10 years earlier, and he's a guy. We do see briefly Rana and Derek Cassins. We see Rana Cervantes and Derek. Two new characters, but that's it. And nobody else is new. And we don't do everybody, but we do some. We've eliminated the character of Fletcher from the story, Fleming Fletcher, and Dawson is dispatched off camera, so we don't need to deal with him. It's pretty much, you can just go and film this. Yeah, so, the way it is. Yeah, a lot of it's still a lot of talking on view screens, but yeah, and the gag is still in there that he's being defeated, trying to land on the Earth. The Earth forces, unlike Independence Day, the movies where the alien mothership just blows everybody away. What would happen if the aliens land and the humans are just more destructive than they are? Yeah, so yeah, this is all. I connected the dots with the summaries. You would turn the summary into dialogue. So you have like a scene where here's Harlingen and Antonio's got to escape from where Harlingen died, and Antonio and the others reply, and there's a scene. We've escaped. We're going to go to the ship and rescue. Something like that. Yeah, so Harlingen does meet Purra, but it's very brief, I think, for the most part. It's mainly him fighting with the female warriors, which would have been the gag in the Totemus thing anyway. So. Hey, and we are continuing on the fourth film. And these are, wow. Yeah, we have... So a lot of this is going to be, just ad-libbing. This is an ad-libbing scene on the planet in the teaser. It's the teaser. And we have the Queen ship, the Jimmergot, meeting up with the Majestic on the mysterious base Red Angel. And they're just improvise. So let's do that. Yeah, so what's happening here, making of. So what's happening here is originally Slater and Cassins are on two different screens talking to Everett on a third ship, and that's boring. So I have Cassins and Slayton and Benton on the Adamson. Everyone else is on the Endeavor and the other ship and the Discovery. So everyone else is over there in the Kaleen. Otherwise, it's boring. Just the ships going back and forth. 2 is fine, 3 is too much. That's what's going on. So now Purra has contacted them. It's actually a night shoot. There's just a lot of lights in here. This is we started into movie 4, having redone the script and done ad-lib lines connecting scenes that we just deleted about maybe 20 pages of it, and then rewrote the 20 pages as 20 pages of like information, like summaries, so they could be added back in, but as connective tissue to the other stuff. We liked some of this other dialogue with the strong female villains and the Cassins dialogue and the other stuff. Changed some of the ship to ship stuff around because there were like 3 or 4 different ships talking to each other on the view screen is boring. To have Cassins on one view screen talking to one ship, it's a way easier to do that. It's not a space war. There's space war elements going on, but it's not. They're kind of observers because they can't actually fight in the war. It's not like Armageddon where they train the rock riggers to fly a space shuttle. It's not like Pearl Harbor where they train the air crew guy to be a bomber pilot for some reason. It's not like that. It's more like they're not going to retrain them. They're just there to kind of hide, which they kind of would do. They're scientists. They're not fighting in the war. They're just trying to get away from it. And what we've done so far, about 12 pages of it, is if them getting to the Ellis Lake, they aren't there yet. And in the story, the battle kind of ends in the middle of it anyway. And then there's more continuation of story and characters and stuff. Whereas I fixed that so that it kind of does end in the middle because the humans are that vicious when they land on the planet. But then they continue an inner power struggle that's kind of similar to the Siege in I believe the second book, except I rewrote that so it isn't the Marines and Morrison and Antonio going to the ship. It's Harlingen who goes to the ship, and they have a which makes more sense. It's another alien. It's the warlord guy from the end of the last of book 2, who has allied with the Cervantes brothers, because of course he did. and his fleet was devastated apparently, and he's just all, well, I got nothing else to live for, so I got this one ship though. That's cool. So yeah, so he's not as no, that he doesn't have power, and he won't be the power behind the planet destroying story that we'd come up with for book 2, because we're not going to film book 2. We're not going any further. This is it. It's movie 4. This is it. If we use any of the other stuff later on for Cohnirri space, we won't use planet destroying and planet ships and stars exploding or anything like that. We won't use that stuff. We won't use Cassins' children and Slayton's children going on an adventure. And no, we won't have. We do have Rana Cervantes who shows up, and Cassin's child Derek shows up, but that's only like brief, and they're there in the background, and they're almost too young to be involved in anything. They're just rescued because sure, why not have them? The Chakotay figure disappeared, so we got out one of the other Chakotay figures and just said, okay, it's just doesn't matter. Here's the other one. At the end of the story, it's like, okay, he's just dressed like Chakotay because he likes Voyager. I don't know where the other guy went. Maybe we repainted him by accident and made him somebody else. But yeah. So we're just gonna have him be Chakotay again. And if it was the gray guy from the other scene, all better that he isn't him then. If it's it's not him. Yeah, so that works better anyway. It's like, oh, okay, he's not. Yeah. So yeah, the overall story, it seems to work. But yeah, even though it's 12 pages on here in the camera and everything, it's probably closer to 15 story wise. But yeah, this is the end of tape 1 on this. We're done for the evening. It started late. So that's it. So this next scene is not filler. It's a plot hole that we're gonna fix. In the next scene, they were just gonna show up, and Beth Cassins and Tom Cassins act like they literally. In the next scene, they literally meet each other again, and act like some time has passed, and they're all like, "Oh, welcome to the station" and all that stuff, and they're ahead of them and everything. And it's like, that doesn't make sense unless we show the Mars part where they go to Mars. So we're gonna have them show the Mars part. So that'll fix that. Also, we will meet up with a young Tarena here, but yeah, she's not. She's just guarding the pod. Yeah. So the scene is similar to that in book 2, but we're not going to do book 2. So we're going to do the Mars reveal alien pod bay thing in book 1 in this movie in movie 4 of book 1, because it kind of needs to be there if you're not going to have like major space battles. To explain this whole Martian Totemus thing. Making of. That was the end of this little mission. They needed to go to the planet. They needed to revisit Mars. They needed to do that. And also I threw in the Tarena meeting scene. And in this timeline, it being 10 years earlier than book 2 would take place, that's a very young Tarena, by the way. A very young Tarena. And that's awesome. So yeah. Yeah, she would be very young. Daughter of Kalsar. And also, it wasn't originally noted in the story because we didn't really have a backstory for Harlgren's motivations for being crazy and all that stuff. But I put it in here that it's actually that's her daughter. Yeah, I could turn. Well, in Cohnirri space, you always have a kind of a generational thing going on here. We're near the end of the story, and clearly it's setting it up for if you want to do other sequels. The Tarena character, daughter of Kalsar, is in the story she's deposed in the series later on. She later will become if Harsal hadn't been deposed, Harsal would have been killed later, and Kalsar would have taken over, but she would have disowned her daughter so that she couldn't be the queen, because she wanted to be the only queen, right? And so she deposed all the other ones and led to the other one's death. This is because Harlingen was going to kill himself by blowing up his planet. And it made it even worse because in the Letemak culture, ruled by women, The male is not supposed to survive the mating practice. They're like praying mantis bug people, or like kind of like black widows or praying mantises, and so the male is not supposed to survive that. And the fact that she's allowed to live and he was allowed to live messed that all up. So she was kind of deposed a little, and that's that backstory of that. Didn't intend to match those up, but it seemed like right here that would make sense. That's his motivation. His motivation isn't revenge to because that's silly, and his change of heart would make sense if he's like, oh, I want to get back in the good graces of my my kid, my offspring, because then we can go and explore the alien ship together and take the riches for ourselves instead of taking the other path, which would be he becomes a lord of this planet thing and blows it up. Instead of that, he's changed because he met her. That's cool. That's very Star Trek. So yeah, that's like okay, that makes sense. And she's like she doesn't like it, but she's probably a young alien teenager, so she roughly teenager. Not sure how old she is in the story. I didn't establish an age for her, but considering she lives to be well into the book series, like well into book 6 and 7, she's got to be pretty young, even in book 2 in 2397 something. So she's probably early teens, not as a character. But the Letimac orbit a star that's orbit this bright star like Vega, and their orbit is really long, 7 or 8 years long. So it should be 2 orbits old or something, 15 roughly. So there you go. So she's not quite Academy age, but yeah, maybe on their planet. Yeah. I don't know if we address the CalStar thing later in the story. I guess we could, but we didn't want to go off on a tangent. So I thought having her be on the planet and having me Benton and do that Benton language scene was kind of fun. And originally in the story in book 2, they were speaking Aramaic. And I thought that might be a little odd and problematic. So I just said, oh, she's speaking a dead language that I transferred I got it on the ship, alien ship. There, dead language. You don't say what it is. And that's better. I think that's better. That works better. And so, I guess they'll continue with more filming of the film, noting that they go back to the base, and that's when some of the dialogue from the original 4th story starts. I keep saying 4th book or 4th story, but it's really it's the ending 80 minutes or so of book 1. This is just book 1. Book 1 was very long. And we were estimating in the beginning that, it might be 4 movies. It might not be 3, even in the beginning. And it might be enough to do the 3. And then we're saying, we should do other ones after that. And it's like, no, the 4 are just fine where they are. It's a quadrology. It ends. It's fine where it is. Let's go on to Starcrackers after that. And then see what happens. We don't need to know these characters' full lives. We just need to know where they're going, who they encounter in this finale sort of episode. It's kind of like they're giving it's kind of like a sci-fi series, more so than a Netflix one, where they've canceled it in the first season, but they've given the director, because they like him, they've said, we want you to finish it. We want you to finish the first season, write a finale, and we'll film it. Yeah, we just don't want we didn't want to order a second season, so do the whole story arc and have it end. And that's what I'm doing. Even though I'm the creator, producer thingy, whatever. Particularly nephew Dan is the executive producer on the whole studio. But I do the films. But yes. So here we are. Yeah. As long as it doesn't cost any money. But yes, the showrunner. I'm the showrunner on my own stuff. Yeah. Occasional appearances by Mark's Cards and others. And yes, we have the Harlingen's train of thought. Well, you figure what he probably is because he's an alien. He probably just figures, I wanted to get rid of those traitorous, let him out and steal their toy. So he's like, he's a bully asshole dude, but he's not a vengeful asshole dude. He's just like, I need to restore the order of my goofy group by taking this local law device that he gets a hold of there. Legis Elgalis, or what are they called? The local laws. Um, yeah, the Elgalis Legius, I think is what I called it. sounds Latin. Um, um, yeah, so they have yeah, you have the local laws. He takes and does his whole thing. Yeah, that's fine. And you figure he's an alien, so his motivations are different, and his upbringing is different, and he's got a quasi-religious cult idea that that his people worship these gods that died, and they're trying to pretend like those gods are alive, and they're not, and it's a crisis of faith for the alien because he's like, oh shit, oh. He found this device and he's able to interpret some of it, and he's like, oh shit, this happened. Yeah, he's like, oh no, yeah, the throwing their entire belief system out, but as the Arlene character and the Beth character, who are clearly more Christian-like, point out, they're living God is one of the groups. It's living gods. I don't think the alien gets converted. That would be silly, but because he is a bad guy and he's not a good guy. But maybe they're under the auspice of another religion that says the enemy of their enemy is their friend. The Arabs, they say the enemy of the enemy is our friend. So maybe they've decided. Maybe this one Bashir-looking dude is like, hey, that's a good idea. Let's this bad guy. Let's just use him to destroy the other bad guys. Then we don't take the blame for it if it doesn't work. That's not quite how that works, but it's funny. Anyway, it's Sunday, 2nd. It's Mark Card's birthday, and yeah, he's not here right now, but it's his birthday. Do one. So yes, they're on the set. It is also the birthday of the infamous Jung Swan Grandmaster Kim. It's her birthday. Well, she'd be 78, according to Starfleet records, or 79, according to Starfleet records. And the yeah, so that would be scary too. Anyway, so yeah, and these aliens are sort of pseudo Earth, pseudo Mars, and they don't ever answer for some reason why there's air there. She doesn't answer that. I guess she says we put it there or something. You don't need to explain it. Just it's fine. Yeah, this is going to be brief second unit just to finish this scene. We ran out of tape just to finish the scene. That's all this is. The talking to the guy on the shuttle. He gets killed 6 pages later, but not during this encounter. He's killed later. So it's yeah. Let's okay. This is the end of what I'm doing tonight. Tomorrow they jump to a scene on the ship where they use plasma fire to distract them. Why would that work? They use it as like the blast blind fold system thing, and then they get away, I guess, and then everything's fine again, and then they're. So I think I got this. I think I got what we're gonna do. Yeah. So let's do this, and then the end of the scene. The scene will be over, and you can stop. Yes, so we're done for the evening. This is Unit 2. I wanted to wrap up the scene with Razruk, the defector guy, and do other Razruk later. And other Razruk dies in page and a half, 3 pages later. We're done for the evening. So I don't think I'm going to put this together yet. I think I'm just going to put it on the computer and then put it together in the morning. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, done for the evening. So yeah. Yeah, that scene's in the book. It's in the book. Originally, San Perkak was going to be the voice of reason in the scene, and he was going to pop in, and he was going to say the lines about faith and stuff, which kind of didn't work. But we've already kind of established that Beth Cassins already has that, so we just had her say it, and just had San Perkak kind of not really in the scene. It shouldn't be there. There too many view screen people talking on view screens. Too many guys going like, I'm on a view screen, I'm on a view screen, I'm on a view screen. It's not interesting. So we didn't do that. In fact, Razruk in the script was supposed to go onto the ship. It was an extended scene where he goes onto the ship. And even here, it's like, no, in this case, though, for this guy, he's on a view screen. Because why would they be dumb enough to put an enemy agent on the station? That they wouldn't do that. So they realize it's a trick, and they're trying to zero in on them. Even though it's the station from the second book. And it's like, the thing is huge. They would totally notice it. But, oh well. They would notice another pole ship floating around, I would think. Anyway, so yeah. So that's what's going on. Yeah, and we haven't heard from the Queen in a while, and we haven't heard from the other guy in a while. But they're not in the script at this point. They show up later. We're presuming she's staying back to observe the war, then interfere later. So... make sure not to add too many extra things. Well, there aren't technically extra things. Make sure to not add too many extra plot points that would convolute the story that's already being told. Anyway, so there we go. Because this is it. This is the fourth and final movie. Yeah. Until they decide to make more in the future. But not anytime soon. So that, yeah. Okay, note, ignore that entire scene. Wrong people talking to each other. It's exactly the opposite. Tornak, then Favala. Because Favala is the pit boss. Yeah, so that's the Earth fight scene as visual instead of just show don't tell. With the three different battleships attacking the city. Use the Cybertron zombie footage from Corrosion and the other shows. Just use that. I think it's actually from Lexicons and Transformers meets Star Trek. Use that footage for the attack on the planet. Grafted with the footage that was there. Yeah, because you really don't have any footage of that. Just three other cities. There was New York, Moscow, and I think London or something. Anyway, but yeah, yeah. There you go. So, anyway. Making of, note this edit here. I'm going to put in a line here to establish that the scout ship didn't actually notice the finality of the attack. They left before it started, and that's why they don't know. I'm going to have a line there. I thought to chime in making of right here again because I caused a plot contrivance to happen, not necessarily a hole, but a plot weird oddity. Earlier on, the Earth attack happens and the scout ship gets away and all that. But okay, had they attacked the scout ship, Adamson, the crew would be dead, and he wouldn't be in this scene. They can't attack the scout ship yet. They can't do that, or they wouldn't do that. So the scout ship got away to go warn the fleet, and they didn't get to see anything other than the ships were heading to Earth, because otherwise this other line that was in the script where they go, oh, they're just not attacking anymore in 2 minutes, seems like an anticlimax. They're basically saying, oh, okay, no problem. Don't do that. It's in the novel, but it shouldn't be here. So we're going to go on to the scene where Harlingen is talking to Purra while the attack's going on. Because you figure other ships are attacking on the planet. We saw 3 get routed. We don't know about the other ones. So we get the Harlingen scene will be next. That would make more sense. So and then we go back to the report to the orbit of Venus. We don't actually see Venus in the story, I don't think. We're just the orbit of it. But yeah, because otherwise, yeah, it's over right there. And why did you be over just yet? 25 years ago, James Spader and William Shatner parted ways, never to discuss anything with each other again. And now, my voice actors bring them back together as 2 bad guy aliens in a story. Let's do this. So there's a slight change. It's not Dow, it's not Michael that announces the attack. It's this guy. So that's all. Total. The fuck people. Ooh, the space bad guy. Yeah, so kind of what's going on is there's a second unit camera, and there's ending for the evening, and there's there's sort of a stalemate going on with internal power struggle going on. Alien ship. It's in the story. There's another raid that comes up that's similar to the other story, but different characters and a different ending, but similar outcome. And there's other stuff. So they've turned from attacking the Earth cities from the ground and decided to bombard them from orbit. They don't specifically say which cities they blast at. They kind of did in the story, but I thought I just said the city. They attacked a city. Yeah, because this isn't Independence Day, Roland Emmerich. This isn't that. This is not about showing buildings exploding everywhere. It's still a science fiction, sci-fi, drama story with some elements of humor. It's still not a war epic thing. It's more like a sci-fi finale of a series than it is an actual space. There's war going on, but they're pretty much talking to each other when it's going on. They wouldn't be involved either. They wouldn't be doing the fighting. There's another scene that was coming up with Cervantes and the space pod being identified, but I think I'm not doing that tonight. I'm just gonna end here, and for the evening, and we've done about another roughly 20 pages of the story, basically. 15, 16 pages of the story. Looks like, but yeah, it's good. It's good because they had a lot of information and stuff. And that 15, 16 pages of story with the scenes that are just summarized would make this about the middle of the movie, technically. It says 41. It's probably closer to a little past the middle of the movie. You put it all together, I think you're going to find that this is further along than 41 pages, 41 minutes. It's probably around 50, 52 minutes, something like that. Yeah, this scene is a little awkward because the transition is missing. But what's going on here is that Beth is talking to Thomas, and the reason the transition is missing is to cut it out because they're on the screen talking to each other. This has to be on a screen in order for this to work. So this scene is indeed two ship commanders on a screen. Because, in order for this to even make sense, the transition is missing because it's a movie, and dialogue isn't going to make sense to describe it. So I'll elaborate a little bit on this. So this is the scene where Purra gets dispatched, or at least captured. They're on the ship. They're on his ship still, but it is a big ship, like miles long. So he's in the ship. The bridge has been compromised, and the Adams is destroyed. But all these guys show up, and they've grabbed him and taken him down into the bowels of the ship, basically, the cargo area, where the Harlingen has blasted its way inside. And so there we go. Okay, we're done for the evening for a little while. That was basically, we got up to the part where the bad guys are basically gone. The last 20 pages of this is just mopping up stuff. So their super weapon ends up being not a super weapon. He didn't even want it, which is funny. Which is similar to what Mark's card said earlier on Thursday. So we decided to incorporate that into the story since it was kind of there anyway. He was probably recalling having done the novel, and that even though we were doing another thing as a spoof of the Section 31 movie, but even though we were doing that as a joke, he was like, what about this, what about they have a MacGuffin that doesn't work? And he knows it doesn't work, but he doesn't care. It's like, oh, yeah, I knew it wouldn't work. I knew it wasn't a super weapon. I was bluffing. Yeah. So he's probably just remembering way back when, note there's a scene where Beth has rescued one of the Cervanteses. I guess that can happen, but, and the other escape pod, but it can't be, it's got to be James, because the other one's already there. Yeah, so that's the only change. That next scene. On the Endeavor, or the Discovery. Yeah, as of note, there was a scene deleted from the story, so we extended the fight scene. Because the scene would have been Cassins and his son and wives meeting up, and that would have been boring. We don't want to add that, because there's not continuing with that, so fight instead. Now this is the next scene, and let's do this. That's a wrap. The Cohnirri space saga is over for now. Engage. This is CalCat the CalCatster. It's actually only 9:17. We've wrapped rental photography after doing night shoot on this film. It's night shoot, and we have wrapped production on movie 2 ahead of schedule. It wasn't really a schedule, ahead of Thursday. We cranked out this. So we got 2 of these ready to be plopped together as a film. Not going to do any editing of it tonight. Just going to download it. We have what amounts to 4.5 hours of looks like a period 30 gigs, 35, 36 gigs. It's probably about the remaining 40 minutes of the movie, basically. Yeah, 35, 40 minutes of the movie. Roughly 30 minutes, maybe. The last third. So we're proving this as a 90-minute movie. And the script was a little short, 70, but when you do the scenes where it was summarized, those summarized scenes were spread out into scenes. Yeah, it made into scenes, ad-libbed. I think it all worked rather well. The char thing worked well. The Cervantes thing worked well. There was even in the script it was different. In the script, that Char was gonna show up and do the fight at the end, and Yunsal was gonna be the one to shoot him. But I decided that, or the cat. I keep saying Yunsal. That was his old name. Orange Claw was gonna shoot him, and I'm just gonna say, "Die hell with this shit," and shoot him. But I thought, no, better to have them fight earlier when the bad guy, the new mistress of Kaiden, Sakar, wants to capture him and take him to her planet as part of her harem. But little does he know that Letamok kill their males when they mate with them, so the harem doesn't last very long. So so the gag is that's what happens. But only because and the fight to the death is kind of a spoof of a mock time, where Kirk had to fight Spock for T'Pring, which kind of didn't make sense. Because why would Kirk fight Spock and Kirk would fight T'Pring? So in this version it's the same thing. T'Pring basically says, "You 2 men have to fight over me." That's what happens here. Same thing. Cervantes ends up fighting his own ex, and they're only together off and on because it's not about they're being gay. It's about power. It's about they want to be in charge. They have power. And they crave a bad toxic relationship. It's not that they're gay. It's a toxic relationship, toxic friendship. Let's say. They're not saying they're bad because they're kind of in a weird relationship. They're saying they're bad because of the toxicity of the relationship is bad. Yeah, they're not having sex. They're just So let's get that clear that they're not making fun of that group at all. It's that the two they're an abusive, crappy relationship. That's what it is. Anyway, so so we're continuing with that commentary on the end of this. It kind of wraps up for everybody. It does kind of take the Lost in Space angle with the sun showing up at the end and the other Cassins, and which is it's consistent with the other timeline where they found the ship. I explain where they found the ship. Apparently, the Jack Cassin's program that was on the ship was left there by Derek Cassins 30 years in the future from the other timeline where the future was fucked up. It screwed completely over, and this bioship, time ship, generation ship went back in time with the people to that other Earth to change the timeline, and then kept going back, I guess. It kept going on in the future during Still in Space, and it kept going on to that other timeline. You notice that the Chimera Bridge was different in the museum, Space Museum, and this other Chimera is different as well, Space Museum. And the people that died are the people that died at the end of the story as well. So you could actually interpret that to be that at the end, some of them were there at the end there that had been revived by the Cillian thing, that they're actually going
to be taken up to heaven on a spaceship. And you can interpret that if you wanted to, and that would kind of be an interpretation, but it's more like the Ghost World interpretation as well. That their timeline has changed, that the Federation ship intervened on this version of Cohnirri space and saved them from all the other aliens that were going to go after them later, which is an interesting twist. It's because it got canceled, but yes. At the beginning, I believe the behind the scenes stuff of movies 3 was all like, oh, we totally want to do more of these and do book 2 and everything. And near the end of the thing for book 3, I was like, no, we don't want to do 2 and 3 books 2 and 3, which would be another additional 3 movies and then beyond. We decided, no, book 2 is not good enough to be done. Let's just use some elements of book 2 and book 1 here instead. The Taurana thing, the Tornak thing with the 2 different Tornaks. Tornak is a term and a title. Sort of like Favala is a title. Favala is a title for the pit boss or the boss. And pit boss, it's even less than a boss. A pit boss is the person in the like a taxi company or something where they're down in the pit. Or it's also the pit boss is also on a racetrack. There's a pit boss. Also, a pit boss can be the person in the company in the plant that's inside a little chamber. They're overlooking the plant where they're building stuff. It also was a pit boss. And it was a prison one though. She's a prison guard boss. So the other ones are too. So let them out. Sekar and Khalasar are in there. And by having Khalasar die earlier on during the discovery of the leaky space artifact thing that was going on haywire, she's gone, so she can't lead an assault on the Totemists. The Totemists are also gone because they can't lead an assault on the Totemists. So these guys have infiltrated the story and said, okay, these other events. And Antonio is killed by his Char in the fight. So, and then Char is killed by the Tornak. So it's like, okay, all these people are dead. They're not in the next book because they're dead. They can't be. But so if there is another book in Cohnirri space, another movie at some point, you have to just rewrite it, and that'd be easy enough to do. You do these scripts in days, literally. The prolific Calcatter, Adam Brown, is like, man, how do I do this? I just crank out a movie script in 3 days. A movie, it's a 90-minute movie script, and film it. That's the thing. It's unheard of in Hollywood. And Hollywood would be like, oh, we have to have 3 different writers and 4 different writers trying to work this out and do some crazy thing, and you just tell them, no, just do it once in 3 days and just write the script. Well, it's easy. That is one of my gifts. Somebody autistic. Stick to it. I do it. I say, I'm going to write this outline of a 3-part script. Boom, it's done. Here it is. Outline, script, it's done. It's done, and there it is. And then I film it. So yeah, that works. Yeah. All the characters worked out. Everything worked out. Even the goofy thing. Yeah, it's a little like the Lost in Space live-action movie sequel where they discover that Bill Mummy's character was being played by somebody else. Will Robinson is actually the old guy at the very end. They did steal that from an episode of the show. So. But yes, but you figured that's kind of what was going on when you looked at it. You wondered if like the reason Cassin's got a divorce is because one of his wives was fooling around with Cervantes. Derek is named his. The kid looks like Cervantes a little bit. Oh no, maybe in the story, the characters. There. It's 2488, the end of the story. So you discover that in the Federation timeline, it also is 2488, 70 years after the other one. We meet up with the grandchildren of Bashir and Kira, the story of and Locarno, apparently the Locarnos that got married. They're kids too. So this is the. I don't know if it works out. Maybe she meant great grandmother because it's only 70 years later. It's over. It's 2 generations later, but it still could be him. He could be in his 40s. It could be him. So it would be. It would be. Yeah, it would be the son of. Instead of a daughter, he had a son because the timeline's changed. He had a son with the other guy, the other one he adopted. He had a son. Yeah. Okay. O'Brien has a son. O'Brien has a son. All right. And then Locarno was with Locarno. The Locarno Dax lady had a daughter. Looks like Kestro, but with black hair. It's entirely possible. Maybe they have like a conjoined thing going on in terms of their what's that? An open marriage, and maybe she's the daughter from the other story. So we meet the kid. We meet the kid that broke the Starship. There she is. There's the kid that broke the Starship. Or maybe the brother did. Yeah, they blamed it on her, but it was brother. He did. The brother's cousin. You figure they're all buddies, that was cute. I liked that. One of the other Daxi or symbiote characters, looks like Dax, is Rana Cervantes. He ended up not being a Rolleran. He ended up being a Dax, which makes more sense, I think. Yeah. And that's supposed to be Nicole DeBauer's daughter playing that character. It's not. But it's supposed to be. Yeah. But it's not. It's not. It's not her. No, it's a Cal thing. Yeah, there's nobody teenager in this story. They're just pretending to be their adults. Yeah, we're not going to get flagged by YouTube. Oh, you put a kid video on there. But kid, no, it wasn't a kid. No, there's no kids in it. No, it's not. YouTube would flag the stupid stuff like, oh, if you mentioned that there's a teenager in your story, they're going to flag that. Instead of flagging the gross stuff or the murder animals and things that you put on YouTube. And, the cute kitty cat that gets murdered. That they don't block, but for some reason they block the other stuff where some random guy is like, I wanted to put a teenage voice in my character. Oh no, I'm in trouble. Yeah. A little bit of hypocrisy on the part. Hypocrisy. You're okay with that other stuff. So yeah, here we are. Here we are near the end of this. Book 4 of Cohnirri Space. It's over, and it was effectively the other ones were canceled. But when you go back to the original first stories, all the way back to the beginning, there, I said I want to adapt book 1, and then we'll see. I always said that, even if I thought maybe we should adapt more of them, but then I thought against it. I changed my mind and said, no, we do not want to adapt book 2 and book 3 after this. We will just adapt all of book 1. We got to the end of movie 3, and we're all like, okay, that's a cliffhanger, and we got to find out what happens in the Space War. So we have to show the rest of book 1. Stuff with the Space War story. Can you rewrite it so that it's not as much a Space War, but has finality and closure and ends the story in a similar way to that Section 31 movie, which was supposed to be a series but ended up being a movie. But that's the only similarity. We also make fun of the MacGuffin device thing at the end, which Mark's cards hilariously added to last Thursday, and so left it as point of dialogue in this. So they've got the Law's device. Harlingen shows up with it, thinking it's going to be some sort of MacGuffin secret weapon. It's not. It's knowledge. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is the weapon, but it's not actually a weapon, which is funny. And that's kind of what Mark's cards thought of. Well, I said it in my review of Section 31 that, okay, the weapon, it'd be funny if the super weapon just didn't work and the bad guy lady lied and just said, oh, it didn't work at all. It wasn't going to. Mark's cards went one step beyond and said, no, it's not that it wouldn't work and I lied. It's that she knew it wouldn't work and it lied. So of course it didn't work. There's no such thing as a galaxy-destroying super weapon. It's stupid. So I had this story kind of do that. It's like they're saying like, oh, yeah, this thing is just a pod, the knowledge pod. They give it back to them. And then they think they lost it when it got blown up in pieces. But it turns out that Cervantes, being a computer hacker, the other Cervantes, Owen, he downloaded a copy of it. So they were okay. They can take it back to the planet and fix it. So there are rooms for a sequel. You can go to Litgra, you can go to Kalat. But you wouldn't want to go to Kalat, because I threw in a line where they said, oh, the Queen got deposed from Kalat, and you wouldn't want to go back there. It's sort of like a nod to the times the church, our church went to the Christian church went to the Levant and the over to the Holy Land, and it was like oh no, they yeah, now you wouldn't want to go there because there's war going on. They're fighting each other, fighting the Palestinians and back and forth. We'll go there now. They get their butt. Oh, no, bad idea. Sort of like the Mexico mission trips. You wouldn't want to go there anymore either. We did a bunch of those. I did 2, but they did a bunch of those. Yeah. And Arizona, they don't want to do that anymore either after the COVID. I don't know what happened down there, but they don't want to do that anymore. So you have, yeah. The story, oh yeah, they do mention a space plague that some of them have, but we're not worried about that in the story. We have the space plague. Space plague. Nope, that's it. Principal photography has wrapped on Cohnirri Space. We can go on to Starcrackers. I'm not saying that's going to begin immediately, but soon. Pretty soon, I guess, maybe in a week. We have to put together these 2 movies first and release them before Valentine's Day, hopefully. It's February the 4th. It's entirely possible. Get them out before Valentine's Day. Yeah. And the current executive producer on the studio series is Dan, K.O. Dan from the series, and yeah, we get the green light to keep doing more of these. He doesn't mind that they're not political. Just as well they're not, because yeah, works. We had to do a finale. We had to do a 4th and final movie. It's kind of like the legacy ones we did, where we had. The last legacy one, we had 3 movies, and then, there needed to be one on the end because we needed to wrap it up. Just weren't going to go a full season of 12 episodes or 8 episodes. It was going to be 4. So that's kind of the same thing here. 4 episodes. Yeah, 4. And we're not rushing over to a Transformers one yet. Why? Because we don't have a script for that. Even though we could write one, we don't have a script for that yet. We have ideas, but no script yet. It's just random ideas. Starcrackers. Space Vanguards first. And then we'll see. And Space Vanguards probably won't be a trilogy. It'll be book 1, but book 1 is not as long. It's not going to be a trilogy. Because the first, yeah, it's probably 1 movie. It's not a trilogy. We'll see what happens. The other episodes weren't nearly as interesting. Well, it's not that they weren't as interesting. It's just they were different than the other ones. They had less marked cards. Although this one will be the most marked card story because it's a rewrite of one that he literally half wrote. And now, since the Star Trek people have done spoofs of the Wrath of Khan and done the Wrath of Khan idea to death, our sort of pseudo-spoof of Wrath of Khan is going to seem really, really dated, but when we did the story originally, it was the 90s, and it was new. It was like 92, 93 or something. Yeah, 90s. And yeah, they hadn't done it a bunch of times yet. Yeah. The Vanguard thing is going to be funnier. It's a comedy, more of a comedy. This one is a drama, really. Space drama. Space DS9 kind of thing. A continuation of Deep Space Nine, if you want to consider it that. But it's 2488. It's further into the future than the other show. It doesn't mean we couldn't do other legacy episodes that take place earlier. The only caveat is that the last legacy story was 2413 just to be funny with the Q Amanda. But because it is a Q episode, she could easily go, oh, I'm going to go reappear back in 2408 or so. Or go back to 2402 if she wants to. She just can't go back to 2401. Because, yeah, that's into the other story. Visit the Q thingy. Yeah, is it the end is Cassin's a Q or something? The other Cassin's isn't. The other Cassin's on the ship is just yeah, the Jack Cassins, who's really actually Derek Cassins, but old, or pseudonym, is not a Q. He's probably like a Cillian. It is funny though, and an interesting curiosity that if you freeze frame the Starship Locations Distant Destinies movie where that ship and that other Cassins appeared, I look around and there's a Techite, there's a lady Techite in it, there's a bunch of other people in it, on the edge of Vanguard space. It was already inferred there that that's where they were, and on the edge of the other space, and also the all the dead guys that were on the bridge. Freeze frame the dead guys on the bridge. There's the Father Cervantes guy, David Cassin's guy, from the other. Interesting. And one of the Rikers, and I think one of the Wesleys. So yeah, the other. It was a Chakotay and a Wesley. It was Char and it was Antonio. Ooh. So we kind of knew this was going to happen. Ooh. Yeah. Well, we painted the figures. That's how it happened. Yeah, it wasn't predicting it. We grabbed those 4 figures and we said, this is going to be Antonio. This is going to be Char. This is going to be... Yeah, so that's what... This is going to be Gordon. This is going to be David Cassins. David Cassins. Going to come back. Mr. Cassins. There was also a Cassins the church decades ago. But it wasn't the same guy. No, it was the key. There's a Mr. Mays, who was not the guy from the church. This is Mr. Mays from Valley Christian. That's who that guy is in the story. It's the other guy. It's not the church guy, it's Mr. Mays. But it was a Christian school, so there you go. This is some David stuff. Nathan Char was named Nathan Burns originally. And it was a cross between the dorky Nathan guy that I knew and the one that my nephew David knew from Valley Christian. So it's kind of a conglomerate. And no, he was not melted or burnt. There was a burnt kid who was walking around that had burns. But it wasn't him. We weren't making fun of him. That messed up. No, it's even before The Simpsons. But The Simpsons started and we changed the character's name in the 80s. When The Simpsons started. But no, we weren't thinking of that guy. We were just coming up with our own thing. He was just supposed to be the bad guy. Originally, the Spike, the Antonio, the Cervanteses were called the Clemenses. The Clemens Rogue from the Bill's Road Adventure game that we had created for Apple stuff back in the day. Apple II computer. We had the Clemens Rogue, Battlefield California, the Victory, the ship, the Victory that's in the story. That was one of them. The Victory was impossible to win. It's a fun game. Oh. You couldn't win it. It was like a build your own adventure winning game, and it was like, but I can't figure it out. Why do we keep dying? And then you figure out, oh, you can't win. It's a no-win scenario. It's impossible to win. It's a no-win scenario. It's a Kobayashi Maru. That's what it was. It's a Kobayashi Maru. Yes, we were ripping off the Wrath of Khan. But we made a game that was like the Kobayashi Maru. You'd play the Victory ship and you'd be all, it's going to be victory, yay! And it would be all, pfft. The ship would be destroyed no matter what choice you made. Okay. They weren't that long. The California one was the longest one. It had a bad guy in a Kmart and like an escalator fight and a bunch of stuff. Similar to Die Hard, but in a mall. Die Hard in a mall, yeah. Which later became the Mall Massacre. And then later became something else. But we never did the Mall Massacre. We never filmed it. Never filmed that. Yeah, we never did that. There was a storybook, but not a script, and we're not going to do that because the minute we produce Marcus Cards and I, that was later, of course, college. The minute we produce something like that, make a movie out of that with action figures, it's inevitable that there will be some kind of mall massacre, and they will totally blame us somehow. Say, you guys are just trying to capitalize on the tragedy incident that happened. No, we thought of our story in 1998. Come on. So that's inevitably what will happen. What would happen? Yeah, a lot of that stuff's based on it. The Adamson and the Davies were originally 2 Lego ships from Space Lego. Found this out again. We're reminded of this too. The Adamson and the Davies are from Space Lego. It predates Space the Fun Frontier game and everything. Little ship Lego ships, and the Lord Drek ship was there was a Klingon guy in Next Generation, but that was later, and Deep Space Nine, that was later. They're ripping us off again. There was a Drex. There was a Drex in the games too. There was a Drex. That's where they got it from, Star Trek. The game. So there was a game with a Drex, and later on there was a Drex in Guardians of the Galaxy as well. So it's probably that's probably indirectly where we got it from, not knowing it. Comic book, sort of like how I was like, ooh yeah, let's name a character Peter Parker, name another one Jane Foster, because I didn't realize I was getting it from comic books, which were later movies. I was like, oh my god, I can't use Jane Foster. I can't use, Mary Jane. That's not gonna work. It's funny, but it's not gonna work. What are you doing? Whatever happened to Baby Jane? I'll call it that too. No, that's a song in a movie. No. No Baby Jane either. So you have a lot of origin stuff for that thing. It's only canceled because there was never really any serious debate. Oh, we should keep doing more of them. No, it was never really. I said no, I'm not going to do that. I should go on to other stuff. I should. And now that this is so successfully done, and they're going to put it together. Yeah. So what was it? The Adamson and the Davies were Space Lego, because Lego Space. See, when we were kids, this is a long time ago. I was like, I'm 54 now, right? So 54 now. So back when we were younger, they had Lego sets for like a house or building, a city, Lego City, Lego Fire Department, that kind of thing, Lego Town, but there were no official Lego. This is like the 70s and 80s. They had no official Lego license for other products outside of Lego yet. So even the first people they got was NASA. So they had Lego Space. And we had the Space Lego Space. We had the Lego Space Adventures. And we had filmed with our cheap, giant Back to the Future style camera. Lego ships crashing into stuff so we could film it like in slow mo. Exploding. And the Victory ship goes and it's on a string and it comes down and blows up. Did it with a Transformer as well, Thundercracker. There was the Trans Tech, the Trans series at the same time. Not to be confused with trans people, it's a coincidence. Although you figure they would be trans because they're robots. They could just reassemble themselves into whatever gender they want. They're robots. So yeah, that'd be cool. But yeah, the robot thing. Yeah, Clemens Rogue. That was not Battlefield California originally. The Clemens Rogue game was originally just like a more of a. It was less Die Hard and Bruce Willis, which is the '80s, a little later actually in the '80s. Yeah, it was a little more like those Bronson movies from the early '80s, Charles Bronson and Dirty Harry movies and stuff. A little bit like those. Yeah. But it was a game, so it was so low effort. We were teenagers. We were like young teenagers, junior high and high school. So you figure it was more like, oh, this bad guy is moving over here and he's going to go over there. Yes or no, whether he shoots his gun. Yes? Okay, bang. No, he doesn't. Bad guy. Good guy shoots him. Yeah, it was that kind of stuff. It was really, really like low effort. I did like Battlefield California. I rewrote some of those as short stories later on. They ended up in Space Time Live, if you're interested. Some of those. Battlefield California was changed to a planet, a post-apocalyptic Mad Max planet. We had a lot of those movies in the 80s. We loved them, so we wanted to do them. What if California was taken over? And yes, we were probably influenced by those 2 or 3 TV movies that were about that kind of thing. We were probably influenced by that. Not going to say they did not. I'm not going to say in that case they ripped us off. No, they didn't. We probably ripped them off. But we didn't know what that was. We just paying homage to it. Yeah. There was a Kmart in it. That was like a big deal because it was a Kmart in town back then. There had to be a Kmart in it. There had to be a battle in the Kmart. Okay. Which also currently would get people in trouble if you did like a movie about a battle in a Kmart. And it's for the same reason. There would inevitably be some sort of horrible shootout at like a Target or something. If they updated it now, it'd be a Walmart or a Target. Probably a Walmart. They would update it as a Walmart. It would be like a horrible tragedy at a Walmart. So you're using that tragedy to make fun of. No, it's inevitable. That's what happened. So yeah, let's get done with this and just be done with it for the night. Yeah, Cohnirri Space is done. Yeah, isn't that something? Yeah, and it wasn't for lack of trying. It's just that book 2 would be problematic, extremely problematic and weird. Set 10 years later with different people. Like no. I liked the ending of this one, like where the ship was going. That they do sort of the bait and switch kind of last minute. By the way, this is Starfleet. I did change it so it wasn't as dreamy. It was more like oh, Starfleet has been watching you and determined you're ready now, so we're going to contact you. Yeah, and it's not that the Cohnirri story is completely falsified by their dogma either. It's that silly in space, your thoughts and your ideas and beliefs create reality, so that their reality to them is perfectly real, which is a cheat. It's a way of saying, okay, yeah, if your religion believes in your religion thing, then fine. It's kind of like, well, yeah, all inclusive, great. Everyone kumbaya, come together, yay. Whereas Roddenberry would have been come together, yes, but he wouldn't be religious. Roddenberry was atheist. He would be like, no, there's agnostic. No, I didn't. He kept going to planets where there were alien false gods, and Kirk would destroy them or something. Even in the movies, there was one where they would find a space god. And it was one of the bad ones. It was Star Trek V. But yeah, so. And I would still say that Star Trek V, even though the camaraderie was okay with the Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, Star Trek V is worse than Section 31. It's Section 31 movie would have made a good, like, one-off Sci-Fi Channel movie. They just said, oh, this is a Sci-Fi Channel movie with Michelle Yeoh in it. It would have been fine. They probably just should have done that. Say, okay, this isn't Star Trek. This is just a goofy sci-fi adventure with a device somebody has. It didn't really look like a Star Trek movie. Not really. Gee, they threw in the member berries of Rachel Garrett. It's like, that they didn't need to do that. It could have been completely, leave that out and just, Then they would have actually fixed some plot holes, like that sand guy. It's like our sand guy. Well, our sand guy's a good guy. That one was a bad guy. Yeah, they ripped us off again. We didn't give him permission to use sand. That's our guy. And no, we don't kill him off. So don't worry. It's kind of better at the end. There was a moral dilemma at the end with our story. They had the comeuppance and things. They wanted to kill bad guys. Not all the bad guys are dead. And you had to have the Queen show up. She didn't originally show up in the end of book 1 to save everything, but I kind of thought she should in this version, because then her reactions and her sisters helping out in the space battle, the other Tornax and Kindness, that kind of made more sense to pull the story in, because otherwise the Pura wouldn't have given up to the females unless the other 2 females were like, they were kind of acting like the Autonomous. But yeah, they wouldn't have given up if it wasn't for the fact that the 2 of them were fighting, fight each other and basically eliminate the competition. That would be a weird society. Yes, they would kill each other and they'd all be dead, like the Mirror Universe. But they managed to do that. This story does establish where that ship came from, though. Does say where the, the time ship came from, all that. Another timeline where the Cohnirri space 30 years in the future would be ended with everyone dead. And this other Cassin's traveled back through time with his generation ship and fixed interfered with the timeline. Helped to interfere with the timeline. No, so that event, those events don't happen. So it could just retcon the books completely out. But maybe there's some good ideas in there you might want to use later for other stuff. We'll see. Not making any over-promising stuff. Because we don't know. That's all for the evening. And that is Cohnirri Space. It's a wrap.